All right, this is coming along pretty good.
Thanks. I tried to stay within what I had and do a little bit of altering so it's my own image instead of just copying, but
Yeah.
stick to the plan.
So look, uh, one thing I would do is be careful here, like all these areas here. So what we're getting here is repeat, 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 repeat. Do you see that?
Yeah, I do now.
Okay, and then maybe some sort of fold up over a little bit. I'd be careful with just a rim light. I mean, you can do that. But I might kind of play around with that a little bit. Is this a textured fabric? If it's a textured fabric, then, I can pull some of this in to show a little of that. Same thing up here, like you got this very, this shape right here, it's very bullet-like, like that.
Okay.
So I might go, look, this is a fabric. It might gather a little bit here.
Oh, that was actually supposed to be his hair.
Oh, okay. Same thing. Same concept then. It can sort of fold here. Oops. We come down here a little bit. Maybe I see some of this coming over. A little bit of a, just break it up a little bit, right? Maybe this comes out, and I get a little bit of longer hair here, that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. It's really funny because everything else I kind of embellished. That I actually used a toy figure and just pretty much traced most of the stuff in there and then just filled it in. So I wouldn't have to think about the form.
You have to think about the form.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like that's why it's probably the one that
and you're
needs
thinking about
a
the
lot of help.
form, by the way, and I probably said this. Now with you, I don't care about talking about, or any of you guys who are going into sort of digital painting or illustration or any of that thing. You have to start seeing this as an abstraction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Like when I go out and paint, especially from life, I'm looking at an abstract painting basically, and I'm just popping shapes in there. So from a design perspective like this, where we're repeating that fold, that's just a design thing. You don't want to, you don't want to have a static repeating thing, right? And then here, I look at it and go, what's going to happen here? Is this going to get a pull fold maybe across this way, which would give me a nice diagonal across my form, right?
Yes.
So I would look at that though, because until you like learn how drapery works and all that stuff from imagination or whatever, just go look at one, right? And just go, oh, that's a good fold. I can grab that one. From a design perspective, go, I need a diagonal in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I didn't want to mess up the figure, so I just literally took a Gandalf and copied him, but I see the error now.
And then and then this, sometimes you'll get like a nice fold across there somehow. Sometimes
Yeah, just spice it up a little, make it look a little more drapery.
Yeah, it's just all design stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then sometimes, I'll do that in my head and I go, that's just not working right. And I'll go look at something and go, oh, okay, that's how that works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then whoop, it goes into my catalog in my head. Next time I don't have to look at reference. I know how it works. But you can see how breaking up his hair made a huge difference right there.
Yeah, definitely.
And and then like this here, this is coming out here. I'm not sure what that's describing. I might kind of pull that back in a little bit. I don't know if you even need this out here. I want to make sure that that silhouette is clear, because you got this set up so there's a dark against a light, which is great, right?
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that it's reading really good, okay?
Okay.
Now, there's another thing that happens that everybody does in this early stage painting stuff. These are looking pretty good. Is we have a lot of sort of soft stuff going on here. It's really common. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, another thing is like these are rocks, correct?
Yeah.
So I'm going to probably, on some of them, I'm really going to push the idea of them being, number one, I want them to break it up. See how this isn't getting broken up? There's nothing dramatic on this shoreline.
Yeah.
So I'm going to really take advantage of the idea that some of these are very faceted, because that's what rocks are, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I'm going to do a little of that. I want to make sure they all end up being the same type or size. Yeah,
It's funny. I seem to have done that in other places, like that little island, and then just ignored the foreground.
Yeah, but think about like those rocks. You can have some of them that are soft. Like look, since I put this little harder edged one in here, see how the other ones work better?
Yeah, totally.
Because you got a hard edge against a soft edge. It's back to that same idea again, right?
Yeah.
And then
Always playing back and forth.
What was I going to say? I don't know if this would cut in like that. I might just have this come out more like that, maybe. Be careful when just the top is getting highlighted. You got to think about those facets. Rocks are just facets, right?
Yeah.
Even round ones, you can see facets on it. This back here, it's fine. You know, and then when I get things like this, where I've got this clear silhouette right here, then I might, because that's a flying buttress, obviously, right?
Yeah, some sort of bridge.
Yeah, so then I might go, okay, can I put, you know, another little structural element in there to break it up? You know, because I want to break that stuff up, right? I might come here and break up an edge. Maybe something's popping out of the side of this thing. Because I don't want everything to become, you know, where it's like I'm seeing too much of this sort of basic shape like that. You know, I might want to break up that edge and put something here and have this coming out over, you know, and then I'll go look at things and go, you know, how else can I break this up, you know, so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
Make sure that this, I don't think here you're going to need all these lines and stuff.
I think I over illuminated that
up, because the glow, that kind of glow to me is something I'm going to do later.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think you need a graphic interpretation of the glow, because you're going to actually paint it in, which means you don't really need a graphic interpretation. You need some sort of a, you know, glow, right?
Yeah.
And then same thing here. You know, I might look for like, you know, is there another element? I'd look at these, you know, these kind of bridges or whatever, and go, is there something else I can put in here to make it a little more interesting as a shape, or maybe it's structural stuff, whatever, right?
Okay, cool.
Like here. You know, I might break these up a little bit, because you get, whenever I've got this big, nice mass of dark, and I go, okay, I want to take advantage of that, and I'm going to put lights against it, right?
Yeah.
Same thing here. I might go, can I break this up? By the way, I've been finding all this great reference. Look. This is another one I found this morning. By the way, how sad is this? That's the White House right now. You guys know that?
Yep.
That's insane, man. I've never seen that in my life. You got the White House barricaded. Anyway, that's really scary, by the way. Anyway, let's go here. So here's another one that I started following. These are old abandoned meteorological stations.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean, how great is this stuff, right?
Man, I see why that was abandoned.
But like, look at this, man. This is the kind of stuff as a starting point. I mean, this already looks like concept art. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah, great building reference for sure.
Yeah. And like, if you look at Ian McHugh, he's a guy that loves this crap, right? And
oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, what he's looking at all the time is stuff like this.
I was looking at his Instagram page this morning, and I was looking at his buildings.
Yeah, he's amazing. And if you look at him, if you've noticed how simple his drawings are, they're pretty simple.
Yeah,
even his paintings are pretty simple. They're just really nicely done, you know. Anyway, there's a lot of this stuff out there. For some reason, I find a lot of it now on Twitter because I started following Areas Abandoned. And I found this really good, and I'm going off track here, but this one that I just think is funny. I guess I don't know if this has any relevance, but shit, I forgot the name of it. Oops. Wait. This one's called Cheating Death. I just think it's funny. And it's just people either doing really stupid crap but nobody gets killed, right? But my favorite one, like this. Look at this guy right here.
Yeah, those are nuts kind of videos.
But there's some of them that are, like this girl, watch this girl. Boom, right behind her head, and then she just laughs about it.
That's crazy. That's
Just
so
think
crazy.
about it. It just tells you how normalized this kind of craziness can get if you're in it every day, right?
Serious.
And the reason I think that's interesting is because you would never, like if I hadn't seen this, I would never think of somebody reacting to almost getting their head blown off by thinking it's funny.
It's
know what
like
I
the
mean?
Yeah.
movie thing. You'd expect a one-liner after.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that is if you're designing a character, you're designing a scene, that stuff plays into it because you're like, this isn't always hyper serious. We tend to joke about really horrible things. It's a human thing to deal with things, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
So that
The
you should
coping
take into
mechanism.
consideration as a psychology when you're designing something. So this stuff to me is relevant. You know what I mean? There's one in here that I think is super funny. Here it is, this one.
Wow.
See myself. I'm so used to seeing the little video from somewhere, and I'm like, where am I?
I sent that to Frank and Brian and said that's the average student's career path if they don't figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it feels like that.
Well,
That's
I mean, I was when I
pretty
started-
accurate.
before somebody got me on track. That's what I was doing. You know?
Yep,
Like,
just
maybe
go
I
ahead
was
into
gonna have a
traffic.
career, maybe not. You know? That's so weird.
That kid's going places.
Yeah. Look at this guy.
Good one.
Whoa.
Oh, that was close.
And he saved the wheelie.
Watch.
He did.
Crazy, man. Look at this one.
Oh, geez. Oh, that's close.
It's like nerve.
Oh,
Anyway, I love this one. Watch.
oh no, that's gonna bounce. Yeah, I seen that one.
Oh,
Yeah,
I've seen stuff like that in
This
real
is,
life.
all right, I'll get off this in a minute.
yeah.
Watch.
Oh,
And you talk about lucky, man.
So close.
oh, ho, ho.
That he didn't get impaled on there.
Right? His leg went right through it.
Look at this. Look at this missile go right past this dude.
Dang.
I wonder if he laughed it off too, or she.
I think look, somebody who my girlfriend knows yesterday just died, or whatever. And I'm sitting there joking around about it. It's not like I'm insensitive to it, but it's just the way we deal with things,
Yeah, totally.
But again, when you see movies and things like that, and everybody's like ultra serious and they're secret agents, or it's like half the time you're dealing with stuff with humor. I don't care how serious. I think the more serious it is, probably the more you deal with it with humor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's
Definitely.
every day to you.
Yeah. And like if you're a cop and you're seeing horrible things every day, like you're a detective or something, you're going to walk in and joke around about that dismembered body because it's just how you got to deal with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
absolutely.
All right, be careful here. We're also here. This building, this building, this building, and these three buildings are all basically the same size, same shape, right?
Yeah.
Be careful with that. I do that all the time. So, maybe it's just this one, gets raised up a little bit, becomes a different kind of building. Like I'd probably put a different kind of building there.
Yeah.
A lot of times
I'm at the stage where now I can like morph things. I used
Yeah,
one
yeah.
brush and just kind of got all my my direction, like where I want the light and dark to be.
Yeah, I like knowing like where I'm
Composition.
going, but then I start just abstract shaping it.
Yeah, I think that's what I need to do next because I didn't like a lot of the buildings. I felt even a lot of the little buildings look kind of
And a lot of times I'll just come in and
generic.
go, okay, I'm going to put something here. I want something here. Maybe something comes down like that. And then I'll go maybe look at my reference and plug in my shapes into that, right?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of this so far has just been what that image I gave you and just going
Yeah.
right over it.
Yeah. So
I added like a little dock. I took out a little things, but for the most part, I stayed true to what I had. And then from here, I'm going to hopefully alter everything.
yeah.
But this
I
will
think,
totally
to
help.
be honest with you, that's basically what you always do, at least what I always do. I throw down my shapes and then I just start working my shapes, right?
Yeah.
Then I flip it. I always do this.
Oh, that's right. I always forget that too.
It's holding up. This guy's holding up pretty good with those changes in it. And the whole thing's holding up pretty good from a balance perspective. You see that, right?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to obtain. Get the composition, get all that first before I start nitpicking.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm glad it works. I forgot to flip it.
I hate, a lot of times I do that. Especially when I'm working in my studio, because I have to walk through, I could go through this one door, but I have to walk around and go into the bathroom. I don't keep a mirror in the studio, which I should. And that walk to the bathroom with that painting is always nerve-wracking to me because I might look at it and it's just going to fall apart. And I'm thinking it looks pretty good. And I look at that mirror and I go, oh my God, that looks like crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, all the time it happens. I've done, paint like a portrait of somebody or whatever. Like, I think it's done. Then I look at it in the mirror and I go, oh my God, it's not only not done, it's actually kind of terrible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree I get that all the time, but I'm always my worst critic. I'm always just like, I hate it. So I feel you.
I do stuff all the time too. And I go, yeah, I kind of like that. And then 3 days later, I'm like, God, I hate that. Why did I think
Right.
that was good? You know what I mean?
You get done like fixed on one thing and you're like, all right, I love it. And then you're like, oh yeah, but it sucks in like 9 out of 10 other categories.
Or I just look at it and I go, why did I think that was good? Like it actually doesn't really look finished to me. It's kind of half-ass. It's weird. It's just that weird. You've been looking at it too long. A lot of it's that, you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
why our director can come up and just go, oh, you need to do this. And they'll tell you, a good, art director will tell you, or a team member, it doesn't have to be an art director. It's because they have fresh eyes. They can come in and go, just like I just did with yours. I go, look, you got a repeating shape here. I do that all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
no,
it's nice when somebody comes up and goes, you got 3 repeating shapes right there. I think if you've made this taller and a little darker and put a fold right there. And it's like a couple of things, and it just makes a huge difference. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, I love critiques, whether it's colleagues or teachers
As long as they're good.
Well, yeah.
Because there's also people who you go, hey, what do you think of this? And they go, oh, I have to make a comment. That bothers me. You know what I mean? Because it's like, no, you don't have to make a comment.
Or it's totally
Because
unrelated.
my comments as an art director have just been like, that's done. Good. Now I got another project for you. You know
Or
what
it's
I mean?
totally unrelated because they like Spider-Man. So why don't you put Spider-Man in there or something stupid?
Yeah, it's like shit like that. Or like all these cliches, And you're like, wait a minute, you're not talking about design. You're talking about trying to do something Mike Mignola would do because that's who you're into.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't give 2 shits about Mike Mignola or anybody else for that matter. I care about my design and, I don't want to be Mike. I don't want to be anybody else. I don't think anybody should want to be somebody else. Get your skill set up and then your style will happen and then you're yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree.
That's why I don't like this fan art stuff, man. You're like aping somebody's style. It's like, how do you think you're ever going to land on your style if you become a clone of somebody?
My favorite is when I'm in those concept groups and they just draw like Batman. I'm like, that's a design already done. You're not designing anything. That's not concept.
I can't stand that stuff. I just look at that stuff and I go, number one, is there not enough drawings of Batman in the world?
Right? No, I mean it's fun if you want to do a fan art piece, but in a concept group, in a whatever, it's like that's not concept. That's not. You're just regurgitating.
I just don't like fan art. The thing about fan art is when I was a kid, you'd go through it wasn't called fan art then, but you draw. Basically, it was based on the artist. So you go, or Disney or somebody like that, right? We didn't have as many different genres as you guys do now, but you go, oh man. I want to draw like that. So you copy something, right?
Yeah.
But it usually happened when you're pretty young. Like my phase of that, I think lasted about 10 minutes because I went, this isn't my stuff. Like, why would I want to do this? Even when I was like 9, I was like, I don't want to draw everybody else's shit. But, you know, there were certain drawings I look at and go, I can learn something from that, you know, and I do it. But then that phase ended. And now it's become fan art. And like, there's 25-year-olds who are doing this. I'm like, you should have been out of this thinking a long time ago. Like, you need to get into your own thinking, your own thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And if you
And
are
that's
going
what-
to do it,
look,
at least
I get it.
reinvent
It's
it.
fun, whatever. It also is, and the other thing I don't like about it is it leads down the dark path of hobbyism, where it's like, oh, you want to be a professional? You're not going to be a professional. You're going to be a hobbyist. You're going to start tabling. You're going to start doing fan art and tabling and making stickers and doing all that kind of stuff. And it's like, you're not having a career. That's hobby shit. That's the exact same thing that your parents did, and it was called an arts and crafts fair. This is just a modern version of it. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. Whenever I do art walks, that's all that was there. People were selling left and right, and they were just stickers and plushies that were all somebody else's ideas. Oh, look at all my
But it's
Nintendo
also-
characters.
It's also just like, I've been trying to tell this to kids. This is an arts and crafts fair, just like when parents used to, or whoever, moms or whatever, would crochet like tea cozies. It's the exact same thing, except
Yeah.
now it's superheroes and shit. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
you see that trap. You need to see that, right? And then look, then they'll point out like Brittany Lee or something. I go, Brittany Lee's a known entity. She works for Disney. She's a rock star. And then she's extending her brand out in a professional way with that sort of thing, and probably makes pretty good money doing it. But
Yeah.
she went out and had a career and built it on the platform of that career. That I respect. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
And anything she's doing, she's only fan arting herself because she creates all the stuff that everybody's copying.
Right.
And she's
It's not fan art if it's your
amazingly
own.
talented. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, she's a beast.
Okay. Sorry, I know I go on these stupid tangents. All right. Let me find.
Thank you, Mike.
Oh, that's kind of interesting. Hey, Nathan. Nathan here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so are you coloring this? Is that what's going on?
Yeah.
Right? So did you find like this woodblock thing and then you're doing a color job on it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I remember this. I remember the cherry tree. Okay, okay, so like here, we're gonna need to break up this edge, correct?
Yeah. I need to break that up.
Okay. I break up this a little up here so it doesn't feel so cut out. Is that on its own layer?
Yeah.
Okay, you might actually be able to use the technique we're gonna talk about with the hair today to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try it out.
This is a smart object, this sword layer, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if certain things you want to do to it, you got to rasterize it, right?
Uh-huh.
So you go here, rasterize layer, okay? Because there's certain things it's not going to let you do as a smart object. Okay, any big questions?
No, I just need to I don't know what I need to do to it, but I really just need to
Just keep going.
just keep going.
You got it laid in now. Now it's time to just keep going. You got 2 days. Utilize those 2 days. Noah. Noah in here? There you go. Wait, Noah doesn't have a mic, right?
Yes.
Okay,
He's typing in the chat.
let me find it. Now, also, you guys, because again, this is a class for digital artists, right? You guys are understanding why, I know I've reiterated this, but I want to make sure you understand why you can start with a black and white and why that's an advantage, right? Okay? Because you're basically working on your design and your value, which is 2 of the most important parts of that whole equation, okay? And then you just go to color. Let me find my chat. When I go quiet, I'm just looking at the chat, that's all. Okay. Where's Noah? Okay, so Noah. Yeah, okay. All right, perfect. You just answered what I was just going to say, which is, you know, at some point now go into your shadow values, and then we can do some cool lighting stuff over the top of it, right? Noah, give me a thumbs up if you heard me. Okay. All right. I don't know much to say about that. I know what you're doing, but try and get the shadow value and everything in by tomorrow so we can start some lighting effects, okay? Or whatever you're going to do. That way we'll have that tomorrow to go over that, and then, you know, your final will be the next day. Where's Ryan? Is Ryan here? Oh, there he is. Okay, I don't hear him.
He said he's here in chat.
No, Mike? No. Okay, keep going. Try and get a mic going by tomorrow. By the way, you guys, you can get really cheapo mics. It doesn't really matter for the purposes of this class, okay? Or you could even get a lavalier mic. They're like 20 bucks, and they just clip right here, you know, this kind. Because I have one I use for interviews, and it's like, I think I paid 20 bucks for it. Of course, right now, Best Buy is out of everything. Sheena.
Hello? Yeah.
Okay, what do you think?
I feel like I changed it because when I was trying to do my idea and then I put the city first, I don't know, I started going off the tangent. Like, I think I like this better.
That's fine.
So I might, okay.
You feel like you got a handle on it?
Yeah, I think so. I think I might use like the burn tool to make it more clear for the hot air balloons or something. I just know it's slightly blurry, so I just want to make it more sharpened.
All right, there's one thing you can do. We haven't talked about this, and I haven't used it in a long time. You got to be careful with it because it can get, I don't know, it can get kind of funky looking, but sharpen right here.
Yeah.
And you can go, I'm trying to think of the one I always used to use. I don't use it that much. You gotta be careful too. For some reason, the sharpen tool, you'll sharpen things that looks pretty good, and then if you put it online, like on Instagram or something, all of a sudden it'll look over sharpened. It's really weird. So you got to kind of gauge it. And I don't know why that is. But let's pick this. Now, when it's really blurry, you're only going to get it so much because the pixels just aren't there, right?
Yeah.
Let's try. I think it was sharpen edges. Let's see. Well, let's just do sharpen. Yeah. That one, I think, just does that automatically, but I'm not seeing it here. Hang on. So we have this. Let's go to sharpen edges. Yeah. See how it sharpened it? Did you see that?
I think I did.
Wow. I want to go Command Z. See it?
Yeah, it's very slight, but I see the difference.
But there's also, so let's do it again. Render, sharpen, sharpen edges, and that sharpen it up a little, right?
Yeah.
And then sharpen, you can go sharpen more, smart sharp, unsharp mask, that's the one. I don't know why it's called that. Okay, so this one, watch. Amount. So I can adjust this one, see that? So this one I can come in, threshold, you know, and it might, that made it a little tighter. You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, it looks a lot cleaner right there. As long as, I like the guy jumping onto the building. As long as I'm not going to make it any bigger than that. So if I go bigger, it'll, it's still going to fall apart. But if you keep it down to like its normal size there, see how much sharper that looks?
Yeah, it looks a lot better.
Yeah. So unsharp mask, that's the one I usually use. Okay.
Oh, I do have one question. So I was so how I got the little guy, I used the magic wand, but I wanted to remember what tool was it to like make the selection layer like slightly larger, like 0.1 by 0.2.
Well, one of the ways it's you can try separate things out was, hopefully I've got it in here. Hang on. Yeah, there it is. Object selection. I can either go lasso or rectangle. I'm going to go lasso. And this will usually make a fairly complex selection pretty easily. Oops, I went too far, but oh well. It's thinking. Okay, there's my selection, right?
Yeah.
Cut and paste. Turn this one off. And that's kind of my starting point, right?
Hmm.
Is that what you're asking me?
So when you went back and it selected the person,
Yeah. Yeah. All you got to do is just do it.
how do you widen?
What do you mean widen? Oh, you mean
Like,
make the selection wider?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So look, let's say that we go, now we have our selection, correct?
Mhm.
I go, and what is that? It's a selection. So we go up to select, and you want to modify that selection, and you go expand.
Okay.
And let's do 20 pixels, and it expands. You see that?
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. Sounds good.
And again, I'm not going to always use that object selection tool all the time. But like if I'm trying to, I might use the pen tool. It just depends. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Got to have a variety of selection tools. It's one of the most basic, important things you do with Photoshop. Make sure that you know how to select things out in multiple ways, right? And one of the worst things I see all the time is everybody uses the magic wand tool and everything. And I've actually gotten work from people where it has all that fringy magic wand crap all around the edge, and I've literally called them up and fired them over that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So one more question with that. Like, let's say I made a selection and I
You cut out.
expand it. How can I make it clearer so it doesn't look like all messed up?
On the edges?
Yeah, like how do I make sure the edges don't look like trashy, if that makes sense?
There's a couple things. There's a couple things we've talked about. If it's going to be like a really crappy selection, I can't figure out an automatic way to do it. I'm going to pen tool it. And then I'm going to go in and do things like we talked about, like with the lion and stuff like that. I might use my mixer brush and soften an edge. I might pull some hair out, and sort of rework the edges and all that kind of thing. There's also, I don't know if I can get this to do this. Hang on. Let's see if we can. Let's go back to that same picture. Hang on. So what that's called, like when you get it with let's do it with the magic wand tool and see if we can get a really crappy selection. Well, this is really going to be bad. And let's try the object selection again. Okay. Now, what I usually do is I put a gray fill behind this so I can see what I'm dealing with. And like you're getting some white matting here. Do you see that right there?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things you can do is you go to layer, matting, and you can go defringe. Let's do 5 pixels. Didn't do much for us. Let's try, I'm gonna go Command Z. Took a little out, but not a whole lot. Let's go to edit, or layer, matting, remove white mat. See how it removed that off her shoulder? Did you see that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, another thing I can do is I can go, okay, I don't like this, let's say I had a little bit, let's put it back. So there's our fringing again. It took out quite a bit of it. I can go to, I can do a selection. And then I could go, like if I had a lot of white mat or black mat around it, which is why I do a mid-value gray. So I can see either or. This is actually a little dark.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go a little lighter. Yeah. Won't let me do it because I got a selection. I could go the same thing we just talked about, select, modify, only go contract. And I could go, I'm going to do a lot just so you can see it, but I would probably do 2 or 3 pixels.
Yeah.
So let's do 10. That's going to contract. See how it contracted? Obviously that's too much, but then I could go up here to select inverse, and I could just knock out all the white mat off of her like that. And then I'd have to come in here and like start to soften edges and fix things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does make sense.
Now with her, I'd probably use the technique. Well, I can't here because the technique we're going to learn today with the hair thing is more when you have a real high contrasty background. Okay, this doesn't have that, so I'd have to go in and do a lot of things by hand. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, I'd be going back in and using all our different tools, my mixer brush. I might pull some hair out, back over the background again. Soften a few edges. I'm gonna have to go in and start to think like a painter on that a little bit, or really a photo retouchers. That's what they do. Okay.
Okay.
And by the way, like there's people that's all they do is high-level photo retouching for like Vogue or fashion mag. I mean, that's a lot of work they do on those photos, man. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they're reshaping bodies. They're changing where the eyebrows are. I mean, they're doing all kinds of weird stuff on those things.
You mean those girls don't look like that normally, Mike?
I mean, you guys have probably seen celebrities in public. No, they don't look like that. I mean, not that these people aren't possibly good looking. I get it, but.
Well, yeah, but it's airbrushed and filtered to a degree.
Well, like there was one years ago that for some reason everybody got all bent out of shape about, and they showed, however, somebody got the before and after. And it was Britney Spears. You could probably find it. And like they had reshaped her hips, like they completely changed. And then there's sometimes they do really weird stuff where they accidentally didn't fix something, but they changed something in a weird way and they didn't catch it. It's something really odd. You know what I mean? But with her, I guess they'd reshaped her whole body type, and everything. And I'm like, why is everybody mad about this? We all know this is going on. And just don't believe, just know that that's an idealized image that you can't live up to. You know what I mean? And why does that matter? All right, where's Tajin?
I'm here.
There you are. Okay, what do you think? Oh yeah, okay, I remember.
I was just playing with the water to see if I can put it into the alleys, because I kind of like that idea. And
Yeah.
then I don't like the bridge, so I'm thinking of taking it out. It's kind of like just messing with the entire image overall. So I'm thinking of taking out the things in the water and just seeing how that goes. But yeah, other than that,
I would look at, for that water coming into the city, look at the footage of Japan when they had that tidal wave and it came through the city. Look at that and just freeze frame a few things. And by the way, you don't have to get it perfect. Just look at the big idea, like what makes it look like water flowing through that thing. That's it, right? One of the things was that the water was carrying like cars and debris and all that stuff. But I wouldn't get too crazy with all that. I just figure out how the flow looks going through the streets, and that'd be it.
Okay, because that was my biggest challenge. Like I didn't know how to do the direction of the water, but I'll look into the pictures like you said.
The direction of the water is obvious. It's coming from out here. So it's going to flow this way in. So what you could probably get is some foam coming around these where it's hitting the buildings, and that's about it. You don't have to go crazy with that stuff. Okay. You just want to get enough in, because what people do is they start getting way too into too much detail and all that stuff. And it's like, it's not about that. It's not about a bunch of detail. It's about just enough. Okay. And by the way, you could be saying, well, mine isn't picking up a bunch of debris. you know, so now it's just going to be about getting some foam in there to sort of show the water flowing through, and that's it.
Okay.
Like this right here is starting to work. It feels like this is flowing through right there. And it feels like that's sort of misty, because that's what it would do. It would hit all this stuff. It would get mist and stuff like it does on rocks, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, keep going.
Okay, thank you.
Where's Elan?
Right here, Mike.
Hey,
Can you hear me?
Is my record button on? It is, right?
Let me see. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Ugh, just got an email from someone talking about how he's putting together a PowerPoint. It's like, how could you still be putting together a PowerPoint in 2020? Like, nobody wants to see a PowerPoint. Okay. Is this painted, this image here?
I actually constructed it 3D, but I am going to paint over it. And then I'm going to vary the buildings. It's just a placeholder for now.
Oh, that's interesting. So you made it out of, so you're taking a lot of 3D elements. Is this too? Is this an example of that too?
Yeah, 3D, but I made it Gaussian blur and then faded it out so that it's in the distance. So.
And then you put these stalactites or mites, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like that.
Most of these are 3D except like the very far background of the cave wall, pretty much. Like I painted that one just to.
Yeah, and you probably need a little more to populate it back here, but I'm assuming you're working on that, so that's fine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't really have a lot of. What's this represent right here? It feels like a tombstone.
It's not a tombstone. It was supposed to be those temple heads statues. They're really dark right now because I made.
Like, Easter Island.
Yeah. I just made a stamp brush out of it. Again, they're just placeholders, and then I'm just gonna paint over it.
Yeah.
So.
Again, make sure that we don't. This is sort of the same size as this.
Okay. Yeah.
You
I
know?
was looking at that. So.
And then I'm assuming my focal point is probably here, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I might want to get a little more prominent, maybe a little bigger. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm definitely planning on putting a few more buildings, and they're going to be slightly taller or bigger. Yeah, for sure.
And then, like, I don't even care that it blurs out a little bit, because if I'm going to come in and paint over it, I can kind of sharpen up edges and stuff.
Yeah. If I'm making the buildings bigger, should I just make the volcano a little smaller so that it doesn't compete with each other?
I think I'd just start putting in the buildings and just see how it goes.
Okay.
Because
Sure
it's
thing.
going to have some cool, like, hot lava dripping down it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's going to be a little bit of a focal point anyway. What I might do here is I might maybe put some kind of dome thing on here, so maybe I have an excuse to do some gold flashes on there, like a gold dome or something.
And maybe some spires off of it.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, for sure.
You know, and then I could come in here and start to go, okay, it's got, you know, and I could make it sort of goldish. You know, then I got an excuse to maybe throw some of that around a little bit. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Again, sometimes I just start putting shapes in here, and then I'll plug the idea
Yeah.
of the building into it.
For sure.
You know, maybe over here. And then sometimes I just start putting sort of organic shapes in here, and I try and find some way to use them. Sometimes they don't work. Like that doesn't work. But, you know, maybe it's the front end of a shipwreck. I don't know.
Oh, that's a good idea.
But see, it sort of suggests, and then, you know, if I go, okay, maybe there's boards coming off here and it broke here, maybe the other half of it's down here or something, you know, probably too big in relation to the building, probably needs to be smaller. Okay.
Right. Yeah, I see it.
But again, a lot of times I'm just, and I know a lot of that takes experience, where you're trying to, you know, do that thing where you just put shapes down and start to build things out of the shapes. And some of that's experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm 343 years old, so I've got a lot of experience. Where's Brandon at?
I am here.
Okay, what are we thinking here? Oh, this is the one with the robot guy, right?
Yeah. Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're just muffled.
Oh, yeah.
Get this guy more clarified.
Yeah, I was just planning on adding the details
Okay.
on that.
And you're just making them all out of flat shapes in there, right?
Yeah, well, I was trying to do 3D, but like I was trying to do it, but it was taking too long to render, so I just
The
decided.
way normally, if I'm going to build a flat 3D or a flat, if I'm going to start off with this sort of really flat shape like that, I do that in Illustrator, right?
Oh, okay.
Now a lot of people do it in Photoshop. That's fine. But again, I think I showed you guys, there's tools in Illustrator for this type of thing that just make it way easier, mainly the smoothing tool. So if I get those little bumps in my line work, I can just smooth them out. I got a thin, thick line tool in there. And just those tools alone. And by the way, you know how to use the pen tool. Okay, so you can go into Illustrator. I just described 2 tools. And when I'm inking or making these kind of shapes, those are basically the only 2 tools I'm probably using normally to build this kind of shape is my pen tool and my smoothing tool. And that's it, all right? So, I mean, those 2 things, you already know how to use a pen tool. And the smooth tool, all you do is you just select the line and drag the smooth tool over it and smooths it out. Like you could jump into Illustrator and do that. I'm not saying do it on this, but you know enough about that to basically do that. I could show you that in 2 minutes and you get it, okay? So there's a lot of overlap and crossover with, especially with other Adobe products. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right, just keep going. Just get that guy clarified.
All right.
Where's he in?
Right here.
Oh, there you go.
So I think one of the biggest issues I'm having to
Cut out.
still kind of 3D. I feel like it feels just very flat to me right now.
Usually, when you start anything, it feels flat if you're building it sort of like that. Okay, it's normal. Like every time I draw anything right, it looks like shit until I, really go in there and start fussing with it.
Yeah, definitely. And then like I'm kind of starting to think about now like what it'll be like sitting on. You know what I mean? And then like kind of like where I'm trying to like have the light shine in the picture for it too. Because right now obviously it's just floating.
Yeah, I might just do something like. Maybe I have the road coming into frame like that.
Oh, I didn't even think of doing something like that. Yeah, that'd be good.
And then go. And I would find a nice asphalt gray. It can be almost any color. Let's go. For now, let's go a little lighter. And I would put some road stripes down there.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever those are called.
There's a lot of layers.
So maybe I just do something like that.
Yeah, that definitely just helps a lot right there too.
And then I go, okay, that's too light. Maybe it goes a little darker. I put a couple of lines down here. And by the way, you could, you know what? I forgot to do the stroke pathing. I got to do that. I'll try and remember to do that tomorrow. Make sure that here you're going to have. Oops, you're going to have. You got to have something. That connects there. Right?
Yeah.
Connects there. By the way, I'm going to send you a website link today.
Okay, I saw that video you sent on the cut lines, by the way. I looked at it, but
oh, the one in March Field, right?
I didn't add anything. Good. I also, if you don't mind, I was looking at your Instagram and saw some of the other ones.
Yeah?
Yeah. Got. Wait, sorry, you cut out there for a sec.
Put the cut lines on last.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too. But I took a look at it. Yeah, and that looks pretty good too. But obviously, when I go back in, I'm going to do that.
Okay, I'm going to send you a YouTube link to somebody who does a ton of basically product tutorials, sketching.
Perfect. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
So sometimes they're under the guise of like entertainment stuff, but entertainment stuff, that type of entertainment stuff is basically industrial design. That's what that type of drawing is.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this guy has so many really good. Did you guys get the thing, Sue one or whatever his name is?
Who?
That was really good.
Oh, the digital cinema one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the video for that. I was starting to watch it, but I wasn't able to
Really
finish
good.
it.
And he just goes into a lot of really basic drawing stuff. It's really good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I love his talk in the beginning about the way he's being very straightforward about like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do
Yeah.
this, don't do this. And he's right, you know, and he's a guy who's like, you know, he's done it. Plus he's
Yeah.
got a huge school in like Korea or something. But he's a big deal guy. And, you know, he doesn't have any agenda. He's just going, look, these are the traps that people fall into, right?
Yeah.
My quick question. Were you able to send the video for the gradient mapping of the underwater scene? Because I
I just
I
thought
didn't
about
see.
that this morning. Yes, I'll send it.
Okay,
I totally forgot.
cool. Thank you. No
By
worries.
the way, I don't know if I said this. Since I talked to you guys last, so I set up this, wherever it is. Is it? Okay. So I can switch now over to a live. You guys can see that, right?
Yeah.
This drawing area. Okay. So I've got that set up now where I can switch over to that for my fall classes. I'm making a big deal out of this because it kind of is a big deal, but it's going to allow me to go back to being able to jump into the digital environment like we're doing, and then also be able to jump into, it's going to be important in my illustration class, then be able to jump in and do a watercolor demo or a drawing or an inking demo or whatever live. Okay. Or traditional. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing I think I'm going to try and do in my Saturday class is I think I'm going to get a model, just a clothed model, when we start talking about people sketching. And I think I'm going to set up a 2-camera shoot in the living room because it's a pretty big room, and do that live, right? So I have 1 camera on the model, 1 camera on my board, and be able to kind of do what I do in class. I think that's going to be really helpful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
That's cool.
That sounds like it'll be really cool, man.
Can former students join?
I do not want, I'm going to put a post up about it tomorrow. And I'm also going to put, in that post, I'll also put my hours, my actual hours of my classes. And the reason I'm making such a big deal out of that is that I want there to be, and I think I've been doing this anyway, but I want to keep improving it. I want to make sure that the value of a class that you're taking has as much value or almost as much value as it would if we were in the classroom. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the things I think is really important is to be able to go, oh, you want to do that traditionally? Here's how you do that, okay? I've been sort of limited on the Cintiq a little more. I've done some live stuff or whatever, but and then when we draw people, I like the idea of when I'm breaking that down to be able to walk over to the person and go, look at this fold, or have that person move the arm and go, look what happens when they move the arm of the fold, and be able to do all that stuff that we do on location in my Saturday class. So I think that, you know, I just got to find somebody to model for me up here, which shouldn't be that hard. And I'll just have in regular street clothes and stuff like that. But the other thing, I think there's a lot of other things we can do with that, okay, with that idea once I have it set up. Because I'm developing a pretty elaborate setup here now, and my outdoor setup is more elaborate now. So I'm changing everything, or I'm updating everything based on what I've learned over this last term and a half. And then I think there's going to be a lot of things I can do on top of that. Like I think it might be a nice way to do some sort of live drawing event with a model, maybe sort of easel-ish like we do on Friday nights, but maybe a little more back and forth talking and things like that. I don't know. And if you guys have suggestions, let me know. But the point being is I'm going to have a pretty elaborate live setup here. So if you have some ideas for that, let me know. Because I want to make sure that we're engaged as a community during this, okay? And I felt a really good sense of community with my classes. It's really interesting to me, okay? And again, that's the classes, that's the students, right? It wouldn't matter what I'm doing if the students aren't making that happen. That's really not me, okay? But I have felt a sense of community, which is what I was worried about, okay? About us losing our sense of community. Because I feel a good sense of community when we're on campus, okay? So I want to make sure that we're doing things to foster that, keep it going until we get back into the classroom. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So give me suggestions. Give me suggestions to do some stuff in between, because we'll be done on Wednesday. Give me some suggestions, because it'd be good to do dry runs before the term starts too. So if you guys go, hey man, next Wednesday let's do this, or Tuesday, whatever day. Let's try this. You know, maybe it doesn't work, maybe it does, but maybe we'll find a couple of unique things that we can do. You know, maybe, and I thought about doing like an open forum where we all just get together and shoot the crap and go, hey, how do we do this? How do we do that? Because now the way I'm set up is really, I'd like to have open talks like that. The way I'm set up now, I'm already set up for this. Again, I can talk about anything now because I can go into the digital environment. I can go over to traditional. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, obviously I haven't thought about it, but I'll definitely let you know if I think of something for that.
Yeah,
it's definitely a good opportunity.
No idea is a stupid idea. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely. And then quick question, what do
Never
you,
Elon's ideas.
we were talking about, like I got a sketch pad just to start like trying to do some sketches and stuff. What kind of markers do you suggest?
Copic, and I'd get probably a 10, maybe a 30, and maybe a 50, maybe. You just want to have enough value separation where you can see it. And I would just start with those. And by the way, the link I'm going to send you is going to talk a lot about that kind of stuff.
Okay. All right. Yeah, perfect.
And that, don't get a big marker set or anything. Get 3 values of gray. I like warm gray, but that's up to you. I like warm gray because then I can, like that video I sent you of me drawing those planes.
Mm-hmm.
That's on toned paper. That's a warm paper. So if I go on that with warm marker, it looks nice. If I go on there with a cool gray marker, it doesn't look as good. Now, if I was on cool tone paper, which there's also, then I would use a cool gray marker. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. I never really thought about that, to be honest.
Yeah, important. I had a teacher one time who laughed at me because I didn't know any better. And I just had I had cool gray markers, and I did this rendering or something on a warm background. He's like, oh, nice, that's nice. The cool gray marker on the warm tone, that's really nice. I didn't know what he meant, but he said it all sarcastically. And I'm like, yeah. And then, later I was going, shit, that's kind of embarrassing. I didn't see that,
Yeah, for sure.
And man, did it stand out. When I looked at it later, I was like, oh my God, that looks terrible, right? But you got to think about your temperatures all the time, just in color, in, if you're going on warm gray paper, use a warm tone. But I just tend to like that warm paper anyway. So 90% of the time, I don't usually use cool gray paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it. I use it sometimes when I go to like jazz clubs and I'm doing like, I'll try and pull one up here in a minute. And I'm doing indoor, it's dark in there. And for, sometimes that feels a little more like the inside of the club. That coolness feels a little more like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I get that.
Oops. This is so weird. Hang on. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen right now, right?
No, you're not.
No.
It's all you.
Nobody wants that. Okay. Okay, I went through that one. That one. Where's come on. This one. Where are you at?
I'm right here. I'm right here, Mike.
What do you think?
It's basically I have a pixelation issue.
That's just because your starting point is too low res.
Well, I chose all large files on purpose that were like 1,000 something.
One of the things that I always do, because shit. One of the things, like you'll go to Google and you'll go large things or whatever, and then half of them are like this big. Like, I don't know why it comes under the large heading. But
Yeah.
What I usually do is I go, let's go to
But isn't there something where you keep transforming it and then you lose your resolution on it?
well, if you go, like we talked about, if you go small and you go, okay, I like it this size, then a half hour later you go, I want it bigger, then it's going to pixelate. You got to create a smart object if you want it to be able to go bigger and smaller and retain its quality.
Okay.
So,
So
like,
would you go
what I
back
always-
in?
Huh?
Would you go back in then and then just click on the or
I would
image?
just if I did that, because I've done that a million times, and I
Yeah.
go, I want to go bigger. I just go get the original file again and drop it in.
Okay.
So what I always do is like, okay, so let's go here and go tools, size, large, and then, okay, so then what I always do is I go over here and I right click the image and I go open image, a new tab. And that's not big, see?
Oh, okay.
So I check it here. The other thing that's nice about that is if I go, okay, so let's try another one. Open image, don't go open link, a new tab, open image, a new tab.
Okay.
And then I go, not big, right?
Right.
I don't know what this is about. Open image, a new tab. Okay, that's big, look, boom. Right?
Yeah, that would work a lot better.
And the other nice thing is that I have it here in a clear window and I can just go and drag it out onto my desktop. Make sense?
Yes.
So double check those. They're not automatically big. And by
Yeah.
the way, I gave you guys a file download for what we're going to do today because that's high res. Okay?
Okay.
You guys saw that file download, right?
I did not.
I haven't
You
yet.
don't have to have it right now, but what, John?
I said me either. I haven't seen it.
Okay, so I'm not going to make a huge big deal out of that resolution thing because really, you know, I think it's okay. But what I'll make a big deal out of is that you're starting to make all this feel like it's living in the same space, right?
Right. Yes. Which I want, yeah. After I place everything, I want to kind of put a style over the whole thing and make it look like
Unify it.
like a postcard.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
a good technique, by the way, when you have
Pardon?
multiple things to give it some sort of color idea or something that ties it all back together again. Okay.
Oh, like use a source and then you get your colors off of that, right?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Or you could do something like this. I talked about this. Let's see if I can find one.
That's exactly what I typed in, except Big Bear and then vintage postcards too.
Yeah. So the reason I pull these is I've seen these. I mean, like even this one. This looks like, you know.
I love those old postcards.
Yeah, me too. But look, this thing is too small, but that looks hand tinted. Can you see that? How the colors are kind of weird?
Right.
Like, you could do something like that, you know.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Just make sure that, you know, everything's working together as the shapes blending into each other and stuff like that. Okay. Get it done. All you guys got to get this as far as you can by tomorrow because you only have tomorrow and the following day, and that's it, right? And I want them handed in Wednesday. Make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I have a big question about the texture on the buildings. Like an easier way to do it. I was gloss on the building.
I would probably just do that as an overlay. How are you doing it?
What do you call it? I created a clipping mask, or I attached them, and then I go and kind of smudge areas.
I would probably do an overlay. Find an overlay that lays over it nicely. And, you know, you can clipping mask it or whatever. And that's probably would be my starting point. Actually, I'm going to put up a video. I think because this class it's relevant. But because I found a long time ago, I found a pretty good speed painting video, because some students ask me about that. I don't really think it's a good thing to start thinking too much about this early on, but there's a lot of things in there that sort of relate to what we're talking to. So I'll put that up. I remember finding one that was pretty good. It was a speed painting, but it was all photo bashed. And it's sort of speaking to sort of this type of thing. There's nothing wrong with that. What I don't want to do is have students start photo bashing everything, because then they don't learn how to paint. You know what I mean? So nothing wrong with it. Just don't do that in lieu of learning your fundamentals and all that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But there's some good stuff in it, and a lot of kids don't know what photo bashing is. So that's the only reason I showed it this guy, because I was like, here's what it is. He was actually a pretty accomplished digital painter, and I go, okay, now you can add that into your tool set, right? All right, just get everything to work together. It's starting to.
Yeah.
But this car could use a shadow underneath it to ground it.
Sure.
She could have a cast shadow coming up like that. Just make sure all the shadows are, you give yourself one. There's not a lot of light. Actually, the lighting is coming from up here in this, because that motel sign is casting that light off to the right.
Right. So
the only thing that's really super, and this even is catching light this way, so I can kind of start to say my light's going this way. So her shadow would go that way, this would go that way, blah, 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 right?
Okay.
And that'll sort of ground things, by the way, okay?
Right. So for the overlay, for the texture, do you mean like I just get a moss, which like I have there, and then I put the actual file over the building, and then I could actually start erasing kind of.
Yeah, you could do a little of that. You might get a rough brush or a rough eraser, so you can erase edges so it feels a little like they're ending, like leaves in.
Okay.
And then the other thing I might do is, after I get that done and I can see the building underneath it, if it doesn't pick up enough of the shadow values, I might put another layer over it and do our multiply layer with a gray and start building the shadows and pushing the shadows a little bit.
Okay, right.
I don't remember how to do that. I'll try and get all that done, and then I'll go over that shadow value thing tomorrow.
Yeah.
We've done it before, but I know you guys aren't going to remember everything. That's just normal. Okay? Get them as far as you can tomorrow.
I had one question about when you selected the girl. When I select things, how do you get it so it automatically just hits the edges of the thing?
That's this tool right here, which is the object selection tool. That's what that tool does. That tool can look at a fairly complex thing and go, oh, you want this, and it'll separate it out, right?
Oh, okay.
It's this one right here. And
yeah, I thought you used a lasso tool. That's all.
It has a lasso tool in it, and you can just kind of loosely go around it. You don't have to.
Oh, I see.
And then it'll just go ping, and it'll grab it.
Okay, got it.
Or you can even take the marquee tool. It has two versions in there. You can just use it has the square marquee tool, which most of the time you can just drag a square around it and it does it. Or you can just do the little lasso tool around it, very close to it, and it'll figure it out.
Okay, great.
Now, it's not going to make some perfect, where all the edges are perfect. You're going to have to go back in and tweak, but it gets you started.
Just one other thing too. What is a selected mask? Like, I saw the tutorial on Photoshop and it was really cool. Like it selected the object like you did perfectly, but then she did select a mask and it brought up this whole window of properties and you could like change the edges and do a red background, and I can't find that on mine.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
I have to see. Can you send me wherever you saw it, and then I'll probably know.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, send it to me, because I'll probably see what it is and go, oh, it's this. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
But I have to see it. I mean, okay, but one thing, almost all these tools in here, you can go in and adjust the hell out of them, okay?
Right.
So it might just be that and then a lot of people, they might have a certain thing they do in their work or whatever, and they've really fine-tuned some tool where they're like, you can go in here and change this and go in here and do that, because that's what they do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I'm much broader. I tend to go in and work more like a traditional artist in Photoshop, but I use all these things to sort of get me going,
Right.
And then some of these things we're doing in here are fairly a lot more complex, obviously, right?
Yes.
But you got to start, as soon as you're out of this class, you got to just keep adding your knowledge to it. You got to keep doing it and adding things in, because Photoshop is just such a huge tool. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go. Okay. Let's look at this. Somebody was asking about separating hair. So I'm going to go and I gave you guys this file. It's on whatever you call it on the drive in our announcement. So we're going to start with this stock image. Not that one. This one. Okay. Now, this kind of, okay, you're going to see that there's, okay, you guys remember when we did the landscape where we separated the sky from the ground, right?
Yes.
It's going to be very similar to that, except I don't know if you remember, in the channels palette, we took our black and white brush tool and put it on overlay. So we brushed out and made the foreground black and the background 100% white. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do the same thing, a little bit different. At the end, we're not going to fill it all in the channels. We're going to do that with the layer mask in back in our layers, okay? And it'll make sense as we're going. This is not going to work if you don't have a high contrast background. If somebody sent me, okay, and you see this all the time, and I'll show you as we go. I don't know if you ever noticed, but like fashion magazines always have a picture of somebody, and then the masthead is behind their hair. Does that make sense? Right? The big name of the magazine is behind their hair.
Right, right.
All this hair, and you're like, how in the hell did they select that? And then, you know, then they build it out of that, right? So we'll kind of do the same thing. So let's go. I'm going to turn off this, unlock this, right? Right now it's a background layer. So there it is. I'm going to rename this girl just so I know what I'm doing. Now I'm going to go save. I'm going to save it into my same folder. I'm going to call it working. And now I'm working on my PSD. I'm not working on my JPEG anymore, okay? Now, if you look here, I'm not sure if this is just I don't think it is. I don't know if this is just how I'm perceiving this, but it looks like there is. There's a little bit of darker value down here. Do you guys see that?
Barely.
I know, me too. And sometimes I'm going, am I really seeing that? But what I usually do with this, because we're going to separate her, I don't need all this background, correct?
Right.
So what I do is I go to my crop tool. I go to my crop tool. And I'm just going to pull this in like maybe that. Why am I doing that? Because it's less stuff for the computer to calculate, for Photoshop to calculate. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because why do I want it trying to figure out all this other value? I'm trying to get the values as similar as I can. Now, if somebody sent me this picture of some woman with curly hair or whatever, and behind her was the forest, I'd probably be like, dude, you got to send me a better picture. You got to send me something that was shot for this. Does that make sense? And by the way, if you're working for Vogue or something, most of the time they are. They're going to know exactly what you're doing with it. They're going to send you great stuff. But if somebody go, and if they go, okay, now I have to use this one from the forest or whatever, I'm going to go, okay, well, I need an entire day to make a selection on that because I'm going to have to go in with the pen tool. I'm going to have to paint things back in. I'm going to have to do a bunch of crazy stuff to make that work, okay? But here we've got a lot of contrast, right? And I can probably even make this work if there's some stuff going on back there and push it, okay? So I'm going to go here to my channels. You guys all remember that, right?
Yes.
So we're going to do the same drill as we did with our landscape. I'm going to go here and go, which one of these has the most contrast? Not that one. It's not that one. It's red. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just crisper edges.
It's got maximum contrast, maximum light against dark, okay? So I'm going to go, I like that. I'm going to make a copy of it, drag it down here, and there's my copy, and I want to call this working. And I think the first thing I'm going to do is pull up my levels. And this is like a standard way of doing this, by the way. And I'm going to go, I think it's darker down here. So I hit my white point tool right there. And what that's going to do is tell Photoshop, this is white, right? So if, watch, if I hit this, see how it went a little lighter? Because what it did is it took the gray out and pushed it up to a white, okay? And now I want to get, just like we did with the landscape, I want to try and get this as dark as I can get it without blowing it out. So let's go closer here. Because look at all this, look at that. We want to get that, correct?
Right.
So I want to try and go, let's say I go all the way over here. See how that's not going to work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go, okay. That's not too bad there. Okay, now what we did with our, and I'm just going to leave it at this. Obviously, I could tweak this out more. That's not you know, I could tweak this and play with it, right? So now the last time, if you remember, we took our black and white brush, we put it on overlay, and we painted all this back out so it was pure black. Do you remember? Okay. We're going to do it a little differently this time, okay, which is good. So now I'm going to say that's okay for now. I'm going to go back to my layers, and I'm going to go right here again, just like we did with the landscape thing. Hang on. Right here, and I'm going to go, I'm going to make a layer mask. Oops, didn't do it. Hang on. So I'm getting my layer. Oh, that's why. I'm sorry. Hang on. Let me get rid of this. Okay, this is why. I didn't have it selected. So let's go back to our channels. So I'm going to go, here's our working file. I'm going to click, just like we do everything else. I'm going to command click the thumbnail. Okay, and now it's made a selection, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But I don't want this background, so I'm just going to go up here because I want her selected. So I'm going to go up here and go select, inverse, and now it's just her. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm going to go back to my layers, and now I'm going to go right here to layer mask, and there, it made my, it dropped it in. Does that make sense? I just made a layer mask, and it took that selection and goes boop, and it dropped it back in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, because we didn't paint all that out pure black like we did with our landscape, we're going to go, I'm going to do what I always do, make another layer. I'm going to put it behind this. I'm going to pick a mid-value gray and see how there's parts of it that aren't. We got two problems going on here. Some of this it didn't select like that, right? And then we got all this halo. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing you can do that we haven't talked about, when you're in a layer mask, I can go to this layer mask and go, okay, so one thing I can do is I can just go, you can do it one of two ways. I have to zero out my brush again to black and white. I can come in here with a brush. I'm going to get a more of a better brush for this. Maybe this. And I'm going to go onto this mask, and I'm going to go and I could go in here and start painting her back in. Does that make sense? Because I'm painting back in the mask. Make sense? Okay. But there's an easier way to do this that we haven't talked about. If I go Option, click the layer mask, it gives me this really cool silhouette. So now I can just come in here and go, what do I need to paint in? Oops. That's weird. I shouldn't be doing that. And I can just paint out the stuff that I need to paint out. I'm just looking maybe here, definitely here. Now, I could probably come back in here on these folds right here and do the overlay thing again so it won't paint out of the white area. We did a little bit, hang on. Let's just go up here. There. Here, I want to get rid of that. So I just want to make a nice silhouette, get rid of all this. I'm going to leave some of that hair open. And this. And then let's option click the layer mask again. And now we've got her back in there. Does that make sense? Now we've got this problem. All this fringing, right? That's way too much for the matte layer, for the matte defringe, way too much, okay? So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna go to our, again, I'm gonna get a big soft brush. I'm gonna go to my stamp tool right there. I've got a soft brush and I'm gonna go, oh, and we're gonna put this on darken. You see that right there? Why? Because we wanna darken this light value all around her hair, correct?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go just right next to it here. I'm gonna go option, sample. Oops. Wait, I'm on the wrong. Oh no, I'm sorry, one more thing. I gotta go make a new layer because we're gonna do this on a clipping mask. And then I'm gonna go option, make a clipping mask, okay? So now I can't paint outside of that hair, okay? And we're on a different layer. And all I'm doing now is just sampling in here and painting that dark hair back in. See, I got, look at that little wisp of hair I got right there. Watch. I just want to get this fringy stuff out of here. Oops, hang on. I moved it on accident. Who's got their mic on?
Oh, sorry.
So you can see I'm getting really fine hair in here. This looks like gray. I'm going to leave that. Looks like still a gray in her hair, which is fine. And I also have to make decisions about how dark I want this, how light I want this, all that kind of stuff. And then I'll show you a little trick after this. So we're getting a nice clean selection now. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I tend to do is then I take this background color and I go a lot darker. And then I can go, okay, where do I still have, that's a pretty nice selection, look at that. But right here, I missed a spot. Oops. And we're doing this all in its own layer, right? So if I turn this off, and this off, it's on its own layer, okay? So let's see, right here, I feel like it can have a little more. A little bit of white fringe here. A little too much there. Okay, not too bad. You know, if I want to go with a little lighter, like light hitting it a little bit, I could grab some of this gray in her hair and add that little bit of value in there if I want to do that. Okay. And then I usually will go back to this gray layer again and maybe do the opposite and go a little lighter. And that looks pretty good. Yeah? That makes sense? Okay, so now I have one over here. So now, maybe it's this one. Okay, so now I have her separated, right? So now I can come in here and go, let's do a background color. Let's drop in our logo.
I like your layers, Mike.
Huh?
I like your layer names.
Oh, Elon is crazy. So, all right, so I could put my, so now I've got my masthead back there. I've got, there's my hair layer, look. Right there. Right there. Article on my beauty tips. Article on how crazy Elan is. And I had a barcode in here. Oh, here it is. My barcode. And I start to get a nice little magazine layout with that hair and possibly select it out. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This was a heavily researched article right here. Anyway, you guys get that point there. Why that's valuable, correct?
Yeah.
Fairly simple. It's really not that hard. Okay. And I hope that you're understanding the. And another thing too, we could probably go here. Let's see. I'm going to put another layer here. Let's go to select, mode selection. Look, there it is on my channel. So there's the selection, right? So remember we talked about this, when we save selections, it stores it as an alpha channel, correct? Now you guys see now that there's different ways to access that selection, right? Okay. You know, because if I drop this in now, you know, I get that. Let's get rid of that. Hang on. All right. Does that all make sense? I gave you guys this file, and the reason I gave you this file is that if you try and do this stuff with like low-res images, it can be pretty hard because you can't really zoom in and see the hair. When I'm making that selection of trying to get the hair and the background darkened out, I don't want to blow out all my image. I want to make sure that I'm not going too far. So mostly, I usually zoom in on some of those flyaway hairs and make sure that I'm not blowing them all out. I got to get them right to the threshold. Does that make sense? And then, I mean, you're going to have this on Zoom, so I'll put it up right after this. Because somebody was asking about this technique, okay? It's a pretty standard technique. And also, you could use this for your landscape thing. You know, you could come in with your landscape thing those leaves that are sort of gone, or if you get any haloing, you can come in and use the same technique where you create that clipping mask over it and start painting things back in with your clone stamping tool or whatever. You probably even do it with a regular brush. I've never tried it, okay? But going on darken helps darken out those edges and all that stuff, because right now they're super light. So we want to really darken them up so they get this nice, really nice, soft, all these flyaway hairs and stuff like that. Does that make sense? Okay, tomorrow I want these things pushed as far as you can get them, okay? Because that's going to be our sort of last hurrah about that, trying to get that all to work. Make sense? And then you'll have that night to finish it off, okay?
Do you want us to turn in this hair thing too?
I would kind of like you guys to do it. I want to make sure that you know.
Cool.
Because I mean, if you just follow that, you're going to see it's pretty simple. I think this is a really valuable tool to know, because and then also like if somebody comes to you and goes, "We're going to do X, Y, and Z," maybe it's going to be something like this, and you can go, "Well, shoot that on a white background, on a white seamless, because it's going to be a lot." And then you can just do this, and you're done. As opposed to somebody who doesn't know any different, and they shoot her on a neutral gray background like I have here or something like that. It's like, that's going to be, you want that contrast, man. If you can get the silhouette against the light, that's going to help you a lot, And just knowing this, when you go out and you do a job or something, you can go, okay, if I'm getting photography, here's what I need. Okay? Because you don't want to, to me, it's like if I'm working with a photographer or something, then I expect them to deliver what I need to get my job done, just like I'm going to deliver whatever the next person is to get their job done from what I do, okay? So if I have this selected out, I'm going to give them a nice clean layered file. If some other person is going to touch this, photographer needs to give me what I need to give the next person what they need, and then they need to give the next person, which is probably the printer, what they need. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That, by the way, makes you valuable. Okay, because people go, I don't want to work with somebody else. They always give me what I need, and it makes my job easier. I mean, if you can make yourself valuable to the rest of the team or whatever, or your art director or whatever, you're the one's going to stay employed. When they go, hey, we got to cut people, they're going to go, don't cut that person, because I need that person. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, guys, go do this. Just take like an hour and do this or whatever it takes. I put the file up there. It says file download, I think. Again, I would use this because she's got pretty complex hair, and it's a good, clean black and white background. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay, and Ian, I want to send you I'll send you a link to that person.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Okay, guys, I'll see you in the morning.
Thanks, Mike. Good job, everybody.
Cool.
Really good
Thanks.
job, everybody.
All right, thank you.
And then, Mike, you're gonna send that video, right? The gradient mapping one.
Yes, I'll go
Yeah.
find.
Cool. Thank you.
I didn't get the second pass on who's here, so there's going to be people missing out of here. Because I know there's. Hang on, I'm gonna grab this real quick. So I'm assuming, because I know it was at 13 or 14, so somebody's not here. But anyway, hopefully it'll fix itself. Okay. All right. I'll see you guys in the morning.
All right.
Bye,
See you,
all.
Mike. Bye.